welcome back to SpaceX Daily, episode 19. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Today is July 1st, 2026. Let's get into today's SpaceX developments. An 8-mile gas pipeline at Starbase targets the propellant bottleneck that has limited Starship launch cadence. SpaceX filed plans to construct an 8-mile natural gas pipeline serving the Starbase site. The line would supply fuel for Raptor engine testing and Starship propellant loading. This infrastructure directly addresses ground support constraints on rapid launch turnaround. The project remains in permitting review. Local Texas groups posted photos of additional pipeline survey markers appearing along the proposed Starbase route. That development sits inside the ongoing Starship flight test campaign, where faster ground-side propellant transfer could shorten the interval between landing and the next liftoff. SpaceX scheduled a Falcon 9 mission from Vandenberg Space Force Base ahead of the July 4th weekend. The launch window opens in the coming days and may produce a visible plume across parts of the southwestern United States. No payload details were released in the advisory. The same Vandenberg Falcon 9 mission could appear low on the western horizon for observers in northern Arizona. Viewing geometry depends on exact launch time and trajectory. Local astronomy groups are circulating timing tools. Observers on X are circulating predicted viewing times for the upcoming Vandenberg Falcon 9 pass over Arizona and California. A separate Falcon 9 mission from Vandenberg is listed for the same holiday window. The advisory covers public safety notifications for coastal communities. No changes to the standard 9-minute boost back and landing profile were noted. Amateur radio operators discussed coordination frequencies for the holiday weekend launches. This continues the Falcon 9's record cadence, where booster reuse counts keep climbing and annual launch rate limits remain the key open question. Elon Musk posted that the company should reduce use of the word star across future vehicle and constellation names. The note follows internal discussion on branding clarity. No formal policy change has been issued. A thread on naming conventions highlighted past SpaceX vehicles that avoided the star prefix entirely. Observers noted that earlier company hardware often used plain numeric or functional designations instead of thematic prefixes. The discussion referenced specific prior examples such as early Falcon variants and test articles that carried no cosmic branding at all. Internal teams are still evaluating whether any naming adjustments would affect regulatory filings or public communications. The June 12th listing drew attention to valuation and personalities, yet the filing also disclosed ongoing capital allocation towards Starbase expansion and Starlink ground infrastructure. The prospectus highlighted that launch operations remain the primary cash consumer. Capital expenditures listed in the document include continued work on Texas launch infrastructure and additional ground stations for the satellite network. Launch cadence growth is presented as the main driver of near-term spending. The filing separates these operational investments from any valuation metrics that received outside coverage. No specific dollar amounts for individual projects beyond the general categories were broken out in the released summary. Reports indicate an undisclosed Starbase hardware or test milestone is expected inside the next 2 weeks. No further technical details were released. The timing aligns with ongoing booster and ship processing flows. Observers tracking vehicle movements at the site noted continued stacking and tanking operations on multiple vehicles. The window coincides with standard turnaround activities between flight tests. No official confirmation of the exact milestone content has been provided by the company. A lieutenant from the Belton Police Department has been selected as the new chief of police for the city of Starbase. The appointment fills a newly created municipal position tied to the growing Texas launch site. The role was established to manage public safety as the site population and launch activity increase. Local reporting indicates the selected candidate brings experience from municipal policing in Central Texas. The position reports directly to Starbase city leadership rather than to SpaceX operations. No timeline for the chief's start date was included in the announcement. On the AI front, SpaceX is offering Memphis residents half-price Starlink service as its local AI-related facilities expand. The discounted rate applies to households in the immediate service area around the new installations. Expansion of those facilities is described as part of broader infrastructure supporting compute workloads. The program is positioned as a direct benefit to communities hosting the equipment. No details on the number of participating residents or the duration of the discount were released. Orbital, a 5-month-old startup, asked the FCC for authority to deploy up to 100,000 data center satellites delivering 10 gigawatts of orbital compute. The application outlines a constellation architecture intended to place processing hardware in low Earth orbit. Power generation and thermal management requirements are listed among the technical challenges described in the filing. The company is separate from SpaceX, yet seeks spectrum coordination similar to existing satellite operators. Review of the request is in early stages at the Commission. SpaceX has named its planned orbital AI constellation StarMind, continuing the company's established cosmic naming pattern. The designation appears in recent internal references tied to compute-focused orbital assets. The name follows the same prefix approach used for Starlink and Starship. No technical specifications or deployment timeline accompanied the naming reference. The choice aligns with prior company practice of applying thematic labels to major programs. One thing worth watching: a Gizmodo analysis argues that simply scaling vehicle diameter does not guarantee lower per kilogram costs. Once ground transport, propellant flow rates, and pad infrastructure limits are included. The piece cites historical data from earlier heavy lift concepts showing diminishing returns beyond certain size thresholds. Any resolution would require demonstrated end-to-end operations at the larger scale. The analysis contrasts theoretical payload gains with measured logistics overhead at existing facilities. It notes that propellant transfer rates and road constraints have historically offset some diameter-driven advantages. The article concludes that flight-proven data at full operational tempo would be needed to settle the comparison. From an engineering standpoint, the proposed 8-mile gas pipeline at Starbase attacks the logistics overhead of moving methane and oxygen from distant storage to the launch mount. In first principles terms, every kilogram of propellant that must be trucked or pumped across the site adds both time and boil-off losses. A dedicated pipeline collapses that transport step into a continuous, low-velocity flow whose only recurring cost is the energy to overcome friction and elevation. If the raw material floor for natural gas delivery is simply the pipeline steel plus the compressor power, the finished system still carries an idiot index driven by permitting, trenching, and leak detection hardware. Closing that gap requires the same reuse mindset already applied to boosters. Once the line is in place, its marginal cost per launch drops toward the electricity and maintenance required to keep it pressurized. That shift directly supports the open question of Starship refueling cadence. Faster ground-side propellant transfer removes one variable from the timeline between landing and next liftoff, letting the program test whether the vehicle-side refueling hardware can actually keep pace with the new supply rate. And a quick market note: SPCX closed at $170.86, down 0.8%. Before we go, watch for the exact timing on that Vandenberg Falcon 9 pass and any updates on the Starbase pipeline permit. That covers everything worth knowing about SpaceX today. SPCX is trading at $170.86, down 0.8%. A quick rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify goes a long way. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NERA Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen: Modern Investing Techniques, Modern Strategies for Canadian and U.S. Investors. Find every show free at neranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.